Good morning, everyone. We are coming to you live via Facebook streaming, via YouTube streaming, and also via Skype online. Each one of you is welcome to this live streaming. Changing the direction of energy. This is the question answer session on Vigyan Bhairav Tantra after the 4 sutras entering the inner centering. The question is why cosmic consciousness or samadhi is called centering. Remember, centering is the path, not the goal. Centering is the method, not the result. Samadhi or cosmic consciousness is not called centering. Centering is the technique. Samadhi or the cosmic consciousness is the goal. It is the technique to attain to samadhi. Of course, they look contradictory because when one realizes, one becomes enlightened. There is no center left then. Jacob Boehme has said, when one comes to the divine, it can be described in 2 ways. Either center is everywhere now, or the center is nowhere. Both means the same thing. So the word centering seems to be contradictory, but the path which is centering is not the goal, and the method cannot be the result, and method can be contradictory. So we have to understand it because there are 112 techniques or methods or sutras which Shiva has given to Devi for centering. Once you become centered, you explode. Centering is just to gather the totality at one point. Once you are gathered at one point, crystallize at one point, that point explodes automatically. Then there is no center, or then the center is everywhere. So centering is the means to explode, to attain to samadhi or that state. This you have to understand very clearly. Center, these 112 techniques Why does centering is needed as a method? If you are not centered, your energy remains unfocused. It cannot explode. If it is not focused, it cannot explode. It is spread out in all the directions. And when it is spread out in all the directions, it cannot explode. Explosion needs tremendous energy. Explosion means now you are not spread out. Your energy is at one point. You become atomic. You become really a spiritual atom. And only when you are centered enough to become an atom, the energy explodes, and that explosion of the energy is enlightenment. Then there is atomic explosion. That explosion is not talked about because it cannot be, so only method is given. Through this method you can attain to the centering. Your energy can be focused at one point and then it will explode. This explosion happens on its own. You have to converge your energy from all the direction at one point. When it is concentrated into one point, then suddenly the explosion happens. The result is not talked about. It cannot be talked about. If you do the method, the result will follow. If you meticulously, religiously follow the method, there is no way the result will follow. So remember this. Basically, religion never talks about the experience itself. It talks only about the method. It shows how, not what. There are two things. What leads you to philosophy? How leads you to the methodology? The what is left to you. If you do the how, what will come to you naturally, and there is no way to communicate it. One can know it, but he cannot convey it. It is such an infinite experience that language becomes useless. The vastness is so much that no word is capable of expressing it, so only the method can be given. Buddha is reported to have said continuously for 40 years, do not ask me about the truth, about the divine, about nirvana, about liberation. Do not ask me anything about such things. Just ask me how to reach there. I can show you the path, but I cannot give you the experience. Experience is your own. I can tell you how to make love, but the experience will be yours. I cannot transfer the experience to you. I can tell you if you do it this way, your experience, your result will be tremendous. But I can give you the experience, not even in words. The experience is always personal. Method is impersonal. Anyone can follow the method that I give you. I can give it to you, to someone else, and they can follow the method. This is impersonal, but the experience will be personal. Experience is always personal, and it is not only personal, it is poetic as well. What do I mean when I differentiate in this way? Method is scientific. If you can do it, centering will result, and that centering is bound to result if method is done. If centering is not happening, then you can know that you are missing the point somewhere. Somewhere you have missed the method, you have not followed it. Method is scientific, centering is scientific. When the explosion comes, after the centering has happened scientifically, then it becomes poetic. By poetic, I mean every one of you will experience. Poetic means it is an way of experiencing. The method is the same. Different people are using the method, but the result, the experience will be unique to each one of you. Then there is no common ground, and everyone will express it in a different way. I invite 10 people over a cup of tea. Each one of you, I give a cup of tea. And after the tea you have consumed, I ask you to experience it. The experience that you will explain, you will give the experience of tea, its taste and everything will differ. Then there is no common ground, and everyone will express it in a different way. Buddha says something, Mahavir says something else, Krishna says something else, Jesus, Muhammad, Moses, Lao Tse, they all differ, not in methods, but certainly in the way they express their experience. Only one thing do they all agree, that whatsoever they are saying is not expressing really what they have felt. Only on that one point they agree. Still they try. Still they try to convey somehow to hint. It seems impossible. But if you have a sympathetic heart, something may be conveyed. But that needs a deep sympathy and love and reverence. So really, whenever something is conveyed, it does not depend on the conveyor. It always depends on you. You can receive it in a deep love and reverence, then something reaches you. But if you are critical about it, then nothing reaches. Firstly, it is difficult to express, yet still I try to, or the masters try to express it. And when it is expressed, you are critical, then the message becomes impossible and there is no communication. The communication is very delicate. That is why in all these 112 techniques, it has been left out completely, only hinted. Shiva says so many times, do this, and then the experience, and then he becomes silent. Do this, and then the blessings. Then again he becomes silent. This is how the entire sutras of Vigyan Bhairav Tantra are given. The blessing, the experience, the explosion. Beyond them there is personal experience. With that, which cannot be expressed, it is better not to try to express it. Because if expression is tried with that which cannot be expressed, certainly it will be misunderstood. So Shiva becomes silent. He is talking simply of the method, techniques of how to do it. But centering is not the end, it is just the path. And why does centering happen? Develop, grow into an explosion. Because if much energy is centered at one point, explosion happens. The point is so small and the energy is so great. So the point cannot contain it, hence there is an explosion. The bulb can contain a particular quantity of electricity. If there is more electricity, the bulb will explode. That is the reason for centering. The more you are centered, the more energy is at your center. The moment there is much energy, the center won't be able to contain it and it will explode. It is scientific. It is a scientific law. And if center is not exploding, that means you are still not centered. Once you are centered, immediately explosion happens. So all the efforts are to bring your energy into one point, centering. There is no time gap. So if you feel that the explosion is not coming, that means you are still not focused. Still you do not have one center. You may have many centers. Still you are divided. Still your energy is dissipated. Still your energy is moving out. When energy moves out, you are being emptied of energy, dissipated. Ultimately you will become impotent. Really, when death comes, you have already died. You are just a dead cell. You have been constantly through your energies outward. So whatsoever may be the quantity of energy within a period, you will become empty. Outgoing energy means death. You are dying every moment. Your energy is being emptied. You are throwing your energy, dissipating it. It is said that even the sun, which has been there for millions and millions of years, such a great reservoir of energy, is being emptied constantly. And within 4 billion years, sun will die. Sun will die simply because there is no energy to radiate. Every day it is dying because rays are carrying its energy towards the boundaries of the universe. If there are any boundaries, the energy is going out. Only man is capable of transforming and changing the direction of energy. Only you. Otherwise, death is a natural phenomenon. Everything dies. Only man is capable of throwing, knowing the immortal, the deathless. So you can reduce the whole thing into a law. The energy is moving out. Death will be the outcome, and you will never know what life really means. You can never feel the intensity of being alive. If energy moves out, then death is the ultimate outcome. If you can change the direction of energy, energy is not moving out, instead moving in. The process of energy moving within and concentrating in at a point is centering. Then a mutation, a transformation happens. Then this energy coming and becoming centered at one point in you. That point is just near the navel, because really you are born as a navel. You are connected with your mother's navel through the umbilical cord. The life energy of the mother is being poured into you through the navel, and once the navel cord is cut, you are separated from the mother. You become an individual. Before that, you are not an individual, just part of the mother. So really, the real birth takes place when the navel is cut. Then the child takes its own life, becomes its own center. That center is bound to be just at the navel, because through the navel the energy comes to the child. That was the connecting link, and still, whether you are aware or not, your navel remains the center. If energy begins to pour in, if the change of the direction, if you change the direction of the energy so that it comes in, it will hit the navel. If it will go on coming in and becoming centered in the navel, it will go on coming in and centering at the navel. When it is so much that the navel cannot contain it, that center cannot contain any longer, the center explodes. In that explosion, again, you are no longer an individual. You were not an individual when you were not connected with your mother. Again, you will not be an individual. A new birth has taken place. You have become one with the cosmos. Now you do not have any center. You cannot say that I. Now there is no ego. A Krishna goes on talking and using the word I. That is simply a formality. They do not have any ego. They are not. Buddha was dying. The day he was dying, many people, disciples, monks gathered, and they were all sad. They were weeping and crying. So Buddha asked, "Why are you crying?" Someone said, "Because soon you will be no more." Buddha laughed and said, "I have been no more for 40 years. I have been no more for 40 years. So do not weep. Do not be sad. No one is dying now. I am no more." But still the word I has to be used even to denote, to express that I am no more. Energy moves in. The process of energy moving in is the whole of religion, is what is meant by religious search. How to move the energy, how to create a roundabout turn. These methods will help. So remember, centering is not samadhi, centering is not an experience. Centering is the door to the experience. And when there is the experience, there is no centering. So centering is the passage. You are not centered as yet. You are multi-centered reality. That is why I say, you are not centered now. When you become centered, there will be only one center. Then the energy that has been moving in all the different directions will come back. It is a homecoming. Then you are at your center, and when the energy is centered, suddenly the explosion happens. And again the center is no more after the explosion has happened, because you become the part of the cosmos. Just as when you were the part of the mother, you were connected to the mother through the umbilical cord, you were not individual because you were dependent on the mother. The mother was. Then experience, then existence and you mean the same thing. I and my Father are same, Jesus says. Then existence and you mean one and the same thing. For example, an iceberg is floating in the sea. The iceberg has a center of its own. It has a separate individuality. It is separate from the ocean. Deep down it is not separate, because it is nothing but water at a particular degree of temperature. The difference between the ocean water and that of the iceberg is not in their nature. Naturally they are same. The difference is only of the temperature. Iceberg has a 0 degree temperature and the water temperature is different. And then the sun rises, the atmosphere becomes hot, the iceberg begins to melt. Then there is no iceberg, it has melted. And as it has melted, it has become the part of the ocean. And you and Buddha, in those who were crucifying Jesus, and in Jesus, in Krishna and Arjun, there is no difference in nature. Arjun is like an iceberg and Krishna is the ocean. There is no difference in nature. They both are one and the same. But Arjun has a form, a name, an individual, isolated existence. He feels I am. Through those methods of centering, the temperature will change, the iceberg will melt, the energy will return to its center, then there will be no difference. The oceanic feeling, that oceanic feeling is samadhi. That being an iceberg is mind, and to feel oceanic is no mind. Centering is just the passage, the point of transformation from which iceberg will be no more. Before it, there was no ocean, only iceberg. After it, there will be no iceberg, only the ocean. This you understand. Right now, you are I, you are an individual, and after that the individuality disappears. The oceanic feeling is samadhi. It is to feel oneself one with the whole. Samadhi is the state when you feel oneness with the existence. You feel you and the existence is one. But I am not saying to think oneself one with the whole. You can think, but thinking is before centering. And after centering, there is realization. You do not know, you have only heard, you have read it. You wish that someday it may happen to you, but you have not realized it. Before centering, you can go on thinking, and thinking is of no use. After centering, the thinker is no more. You know it has happened. You are no more. Only the ocean is. Centering is the method and samadhi is the end. Nothing has been said about what happens in samadhi, because nothing can be said. It is poetic, it is an individual experience. And Shiva is very scientific. He is not interested in telling at all. He is telegraphic. He will not use a single extra word. He simply hints the experience, the blessings, the happening. Not only this, sometimes he will say then. He will say be centered between the two eyebrows, and then the sutra ends. And then he will stop. Then sometimes he will simply say be in the middle, just in the middle between the two extremes, and that. These are the indications that then the experience, the blessing, the happening, the explosion. But he stops completely. Why? We would certainly like him to say something more. Only this much for this morning. Until Saturday, take care and do have a pleasant day. We will continue on this more.